Hello, welcome to my house and welcome to my channel. I'm Laura Cepeda and today I'm going to show you how you can make these fingerless gloves for all your family. You can make these gloves either for yourself, for your kids, or for your husband. You can make this also for men. I think that it's perfect. It has a simple stitch and you can transform, and I will give you all the steps of how you can make it in different sizes. Remember that right now we are in a season where we are making gift or we are starting our own business. Well, I think that this is the perfect idea to make our simple, easy, and fast. So, well, before we start, please don't forget to subscribe and I will give you the material list. Well, for these fingerless gloves for an adult, we are going to need 100 grams of a fine material. In this case, I'm going to use an Angorita. It has a little sparkles on it and a pair of needles of number 4 and a crochet hook. And also, we are going to need some markers, and that's it. Okay, remember, if you want to use the same material, here I will share all the information where you can buy it. Remember that if you want to buy and use the same materials that I use in all my videos, you can visit my online store www.lauracepeda.es. Well, with one thread and with our needles, we are going to start casting on the stitches. It doesn't matter if you are making this for an adult or for a man or for a kid. Always, we are going to try to cast on even numbers, okay? So in this case, I'm going to make it for an adult. Later, I will give you all the measures so you can have it as a reference. Well, for an adult in a standard size, we are going to cast on 40 stitches. Remember that this is the way I cast on the stitches. I know that there are so many different ways, but I found this way the most easy and the way that you don't spend and you don't waste any more material. So like this is how we are going to cast on 40 stitches for an adult, okay? I will continue recording so you can see the way I cast on the stitches. Well, now that we have 40 stitches, we are going to make 2 more to have one for each side to have a perfect edge. So I will have one each side. Well, now that we have the stitches that we need, we are going to start making the elastic. We can make the elastic simple or double. We are going to pass the first, we are going to knit 1 and then pour 2. And like this is how we are going to continue. Just at the beginning we pass the stitch without knitting. But for the rest of the stitch we are going to knit 2 and pour 2. If you are learning how to knit, well, remember that when we place the thread behind, we knit, and when we place the thread in front, we pour. So like this is how we are going to continue for the rest of the row. Well, we have here our first row. Now we will continue as it goes. So this means that the ones that we knit, we are going to knit it again, and the ones that we pour, we are going to pour again. So we first passed the first stitch, and then we will see, you will see that here you have this thread here behind. You can tell the difference, and when it's poured, we have the thread in front. And well, this is how we are going to continue for the rest of the rows. Okay, we are going to make approximately 5 or 6 centimeters repeating this sequence, okay, following the stitch as it goes. So well, let's continue and see you when we have more rows. Well, as you could see, I continue repeating this sequence and I complete the 5 centimeters that I needed. This will be the first, okay. Here I already got ahead and I have the other pair, and then from here we are going to continue making jersey stitch until here, until we complete 5 centimeters more, and then we will divide to make the thumb. Well, for now let's make the rows that we need to complete the 5 centimeters until we arrive to the thumb. We are going to continue making jersey stitch. This means that we will go and we will knit all the stitches in the first row, and then we will come back for all the stitches in the second row. And like this is how we are going to continue repeating this series. This is the jersey stitch. So well, let's finish this row first. Well, we finished the first row of the jersey stitch where we need all the stitches. Now, to make the second part of the jersey stitch, we are going to come back making pour stitch like this. Remember that the pour is when we place the thread in front. So like this is how we are going to continue repeating series of jersey stitch. Remember that one row we are going to knit and in the next row we are going to pour. Okay, so let's continue like this until we complete the 5 centimeters that we need. Well, we are here. We already finished the rows that we needed to arrive to the 5 centimeters that we need. This is the jersey stitch that we made. So now we are here and we are going to divide in half to make the thumb. I will show you how we are going to increase some stitches here. So remember we have 42 stitches, 40 that we cast on and 2 more that we made for the edge. So we will divide and we will have 21. So right when we have the half, we are going to use a marker. So right here we have the half, so we are going to use one marker. So, well, right here is where we are going to have our half. So we will divide and we will increase some stitches to start making the thumb from here and from here until we get the space. So well, we will continue with the jersey stitch. So now we have to knit. So we are going to continue knitting and see you here one stitch before the half. So we are right here in the half, so we are going to increase one here and one in the other side. Well, look, this is the way I increase. I'm going to take the thread that we have here in the previous stitch. In the previous stitches, I'm going to take it, I'm going to place it again in the needle like this, and I'm going to knit it. So I'm going to knit the next stitch, and I will repeat in the next stitch right after the half. So I'm going to take the thread of the stitch below like this. I'm going to place it again in the needle and I'm going to knit it. I know that there are a lot of different ways to increase the stitches too, but this is the way that I learned. Please leave me here in the comments below the way that you know. So this is how we are going to continue increasing in this space like this until we get the space of the thumb. So what we are going to make next is that we are going to continue with the stitch, and what we made in this side we have to repeat it in the other side. So as part of the jersey stitch, what we are going to make in the next row is that we are going to come back with pour stitch. We are not going to increase, okay? Until the next row I will tell you how we are going to continue, okay? So for now let's finish these 2 rows first and then see you there. And it's important that right where is the marker, we come from here to here 21 stitches, and in the other side 21 stitches too. And here right in the middle is where we are going to increase. We are going to take one stitch from the stitch below and we are going to bring it back to the needle, and right here we are going to knit it. We are going to knit one, then knit the next one, and then again we are going to increase, taking the stitch below, taking this thread, placing it back in the needle, and we are going to needle. So we are going to increase after and before. And then we will continue with the next 21 stitches. At the end of this row, we are continue making pour stitch. Remember that then we are going to come back knitting, and where we knit is where we are going to increase, only in that row. Remember that the sequence of these 2 rows becomes one series of the jersey stitch. Well, as you could see, I already get ahead and I made these fingerless gloves, and this is where we are. As you could see here, we have the increases. First we have 2, then 4, then 6, and we are going to continue like this, increasing 2 in the row where we knit until we have 16. And remember that after we increase, we will have 21 and 21 stitches to make. So this is right where we are, right here where is the marker, and this is where we are going to start increasing, okay, in this side and in the other side. and it will look like this. And here we already increased 4 stitches right here where we are. So we are going to continue increasing 1 stitch each side when we need, in the row where we need, until we have 16. And remember, always try to count 21 stitches in one side and 21 stitches in the other side. And so well, we are going to continue making the jersey stitch. Like this is how we are going to continue until we have 16 stitches right here in the middle, and I will stop there to teach you how we are going to continue. Well, I want to stop here. I already finished and I increased 16 stitches. We have this triangle shape, as you could see. Remember that we start with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 until we have 60. And we always count 21 stitches in this side and 21 stitches in the other side. Well, this is a tip that I gave you. We're always going to count 21, and in the 22 we are going to increase 1, and then when we are about to finish these stitches that we have here, well, then we are going to increase 1 right where we are going when we're about to finish here, and then from here we are going to count 21 stitches again. This is how I continue, and in each row I was counting the stitches because I didn't want to lose, and I wanted to continue having 21 each side plus the stitches that I increased right here in the middle. Well, once we have 16, once we increase 16, well, remember that we increased 16 and this is the standard size for an adult. And well, also you are going to make less rows according to the size that you are making this break for, and also since you make the base chains, well, you are going to make less, and then you are going to measure how many stitches you need for the elastic and how many stitches you need for this part. But I suggest that you first follow these instructions that make these gloves for yourself, and then you will take it as a reference and you will have an idea of how many stitches you are going to need. We are going to need a marker like this one, a pin like this one, to take the stitches. So first we are going to need these 21 stitches, and then we are going to take 16 stitches in this pin. Well, I already need the 21 stitches, and now with the stitches holder I'm going to take the next 16. Please count them and take by one.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
14 and 15. Well, now we are going to keep them in this stitchers holder, or how can you call this? Please let me know. And then we will continue knitting the next 21 stitches. Well, sorry, in this case I'm going to continue with the 4th row. Remember that we are going to continue following the jersey stitch, so I'm going to continue making 4 stitch. So well, from here we are going to continue repeating several series of this jersey stitch, and we are going to continue making as many rows as we need until we arrive to the middle of our fingers. Remember that this is a fingerless gloves, so we are going to continue and we are going to stop until we have stitches until the middle of our fingers, or if you want to make more, well, you can make more like I made here. Look at this. So these are the stitches that we have here in the stitchers holders. So we are going to continue making rows from here to here. I felt that I made too much rows, you will see. So please, while you are continuing, well, please try on. Maybe you want them shorter or you want to make more rows. And also please take into account that after these rows we are going to make some elastic rows for this part. So take that into account, also if you want, of course, to make these elastic rows. So because I want to tighten a little bit this part, so that's why I'm going to make the elastic rows at the end. So for now we are going to make
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
11 and 12. So we are going to stop here to make the elastic stitch, So for now we have the first row. So well, let's continue until we have 12 rows from here. So I'm going to stop here. I already have the rows that I need. At the end I made 11. I made 5 centimeters because I'm thinking that I'm going to make approximately 2 rows of elastic stitch, so it will be enough for the rows and for the design that I want for these fingerless gloves. So well, before we start with the elastic stitch, we are going to reduce some stitches because I want that the part that is in my fingers be a little bit tight with not so many spaces in between the fingers, because remember that this part is thinner than this part that is wider. So well, we are going to continue with this part. We are going to reduce. First we are going to need 6, and after we are going to reduce. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we are going to need 2. And here's where we are going to reduce. And again, we are going to need 6, and we are going to take 2 together. And this is how we are going to continue for the rest of the row. Into each 6. So after the row where we reduce, well, now we are going to continue making the elastic stitch like we made here. Remember, we need 2, we pour 2. So this is what we are going to repeat in this part. So we are going to take the first one, then we are going to need 2, and then the next 2 we are going to pour, and we are going to repeat this sequence, okay? Remember that now we have less stitches that we used to have because in the last row we reduced. And well, we are going to continue making as many rows as we need. Remember that I'm going to make approximately 2 centimeters. I think that just a half of the rows that I made here. So well, for now let's continue making these rows. Remember, where we pour, we are going to pour, and where we need, we are going to knit. So see you at the end of these rows. So well, I finished the rows that I needed with the elastic stitch, and from here, the row where we reduce, I made 5 rows. So now we are going to bind off. We are going to take 2 stitches together, like this. Okay, we are going to knit 2 together, and we are going to come back with 1. And then again, 2 together, and we are going to come back with 1. And we are going to repeat this technique until we finish with all the stitches. So well, at the end we will have 2 stitches left. So we are going to take 2 together, and then we are going to come back 1. And then this last stitch we are going to cut a long thread because we are going to use this thread to sew. So it's important that you cut a long thread. Once that we have the thread that we need, we are going to pass it through the last stitch, and then we are going to pull. Remember that we still have the stitches in the stitches holder. So we have it here. So then we are going to fold it, and with this thread that we used to bind off, well, we are going to use the embroidery needle, and we are going to sew in this part. And then when we finish, we are going to take the needles, and we are going to make some rows with elastic stitch in this part, and we are going to repeat the same. Then we are going to bind off, and we are going to sew to join this part of the finger. Well, quick, I will teach you how we are going to make this part. Well, as you could see, I already put all the stitches back in the needle. Here I'm going with my hook, I'm going to make a knot to take the thread and continue making the elastic stitches. Remember that we are going to repeat the same rows that we made here. The same stitch that we made here. And then we are going to make it here in the thumb finger. So in the elastic stitch we need 2, and then we pour 2. Remember that we had in this part 16 stitches, so we must have 16 stitches too. So well, we are going to continue like this for several rows, making the elastic stitch until we get the rows that we need, okay? Also, I suggest that you try on and you see if you need more or less rows according to the size and to the length of your thumb. Well, see you at the end of these rows. and then I will teach you what's next. Well, in my case, I made the same number of rows that I made for the top of the fingerless gloves. Remember the last rows that we made, and I have 5. So now we are going to bind off all the stitches, and we are going to repeat the same. At the end, when we have 1, we are going to pull the stitch, and we are going to cut a long thread because we are going to use that thread to sew. So look, this is the last stitch. I already finished binding off all the stitches. I'm going to cut a long thread. So this is the thread that I'm going to use to sew. Well, this is how we are going to continue. We are going to sew with embroidery needle. We are going to take one stitch from here and one stitch from the other side. Remember that this is the technique that I use because with this we are not going to create any pleat. So like this is taking one stitch and one stitch from the other side. We are going to continue. If you want, you can use your markers to point it out exactly where you are going to join. We are going to repeat the same technique here in the finger too. Well, look, I already finished to sew in this part and we have something like this. And now here at the end, we are just going to make a knot. I already made the same in the thumb, and then we are going to hide all these threads. Try to cut them a little bit long because then with the embroidery needle we are going to hide these threads inside the project. And then with this we finish. Okay, remember that it's important that the same person make the pair of gloves because this glove has to be exactly the same of the other pair. So it's important that the same person make the gloves and that the same person use the same number of needles and put the same number of stitches and everything. Remember that we have to make an exact copy of these gloves. Okay, and with this we finish. Remember that you can create the gloves that you want according to the design that you want. This is only an idea and you can take this as a reference. If you want, you can make the complete gloves. The only thing that you are going to do is that you are going to continue making more rows, and then according how your fingers are reducing, well, you are going to reduce some stitches like I teach you. Remember that before we make the elastic rows, well, we reduce. So we are going to repeat the technique too, and then at the end we are going to close the stitches. In the top we are going to repeat the same thing. Here we are going to sew, we are going to join, then we are going to hide all the threads that we have there, and with this we finish. Okay, if you want also you can decorate your gloves. It's important when we are here, when we are sewing this part, we also sew this part so we don't have any hole. So well, what do you think? I hope that you have liked this video. I hope that you all make it. I think that is a perfect idea for these coming holidays. Remember that in these weeks I have already shared so many ideas of gifts, of presents that you can make for the people you love. Remember that right now we are passing through a difficult situation, a difficult year. So I think that something made for you, it will be very special. So please make them. And if you make them, please tag me in all my social media, and don't forget to follow me in Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.